Hey everybody, it's Sean, and I'm back to show you guys a more professional way to go about setting up a document for a Gatefold, Roll Fold, or Accordion Fold brochure. In the previous video, I walked you through how to make a sort of basic version of this using guides, and in this video I'm going to show you techniques on how to rearrange pages and create spreads that are double panel wide, as well as an option to create a centerfold for maybe a more complicated project that you want to do in the future. Anyways, to get going, we're going to create a new document by going to File, New Document. And I have up the example right underneath. So this is naturally preview took over, so bear with me here. What I can show you is I want to switch over to inches. And previously we were working in a document that was an entire sheet of paper. In this case, what I want to do is create individual panels. And so since there were 4 panels and 16 divided by 4 is 4, I want there to be a width of 4 inches, a height of 8, and this will represent 1 panel. I know that I'm going to want there to be 8 panels in total, so 8 different pages. We need to have facing pages turned on for this, and the rest of our information should be fine. 1 column, a margin of, about 3/4 of an inch should be fine, and bleed, you know, 1/8 of an inch. And that should be good. So let's hit create. And if we go into pages, we can see we have all these pages here. And the natural inclination would be, oh, well, I'm just going to grab page 2. I'm going to drag it up to page 1. But that does not seem to work very well because page 2 does not want to stick up there. So we're sort of left in this awkward space where we don't really know how to adjust this information. But what you want to do is you want to come up to this hamburger menu here, and you want to uncheck allow document pages to shuffle. And when we do that and we drag page 2 up here, you'll notice it's very kind of tiny and discrete, but you get 2 different options. You get this long bar here, or you get this little bracket here. If you have the bracket showing, you can drop page number 2 and it will snap on up to page number 1 and create a spread. And we can do the same thing with pages 3 and pages 4. And the one thing to sort of notice here is they're all on the right hand side of this very thin line. That thin line is actually the spine, and the spine right now is along this left hand edge. The cool thing about this is if you're thinking about it in terms of like a magazine, this is essentially a centerfold spread. This is where each of these panels would fold up and sit within the boundaries of the magazine. We don't really want that though. We want 2 pages on either side. So to do that, we can grab the first page to the left and drag it so that we see the bracket, not the line, but the bracket, and we can drop it on the other side. Same goes for the second page. We want this to be evenly distributed across the spine. So that's the first sort of half of this brochure. The second half, we want to repeat those steps by dragging the pages up to the side until we get that bracket, and then we want to grab the pages and set 2 of them on the other side of the spine. Sometimes InDesign is a little finicky and you might have to do things twice, but don't mind that. So now we have our 2 pages. They are really well formatted. By taking the time to make sure your document is properly formatted like this, you're just going to be laughing through your projects and things are going to work much easier. I'm going to go back to our basic example for a second, and you can see here the guides are sort of mimicking these page breaks by the center sort of line here, and using our margins here on either side of it to sort of mimic what the proper formatting really should be. The nice thing about this too is you can go into document setup now and you can sort of fiddle with the margins. You can create extra columns within these pages. There's a lot of options here to be able to do things properly. And what I'm going to do just to showcase something to you guys is I'm going to go onto a master page. I'm going to create a very large box. I'm going to create a new page number by hitting Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and N. And I'm just going to make this guy incredibly large for a second. And I'm going to center it. And then I'm going to center it one more time on the page. Come on. Sorry. It wants to align to selection, not to page. So I'm just going to center it on the page, and I'm going to duplicate it. Cool. And now, if we look at our pages, you'll notice that they all have the panel numbers associated with it, which might be useful if you want to do a test print and just see which, depending on the pamphlet style that you're working towards, which panel is going to be front, back, interior, front, interior, things like that. I, again, just always find that to be very useful. And the other thing that is beneficial to this style is if we were just to create a text box and fill with placeholder text, let's say I was to drag this slightly off center and then try and align it to something on the page, you can see that my actions up here are actually aligning it to the proper panel. Whereas if I was to copy and paste this into our previous basic example and then align it, it's not aligning to any one panel. It's only aligning to the center of the page. So in terms of formatting, this method over here, our Pro method, is a huge bonus. It's a really, really good job. All right, so you have this sort of more professionally set up. You'll be able to go about your designs quite easily. Everything is going well. Now it's time to actually set this guy up for printing. To do that, what we can do is we can hit Command P to bring up the print dialog box, and I'm going to select my home printer, which is notoriously difficult to deal with. I'm going to switch it back over to a unfortunately, I'm stuck on a letter because I don't have a printer that can deal with, you know, oversized pages. I'm going to hit Scale to Fit, and instead of printing pages, I want it to print spreads. And then under Setup, I want it to be landscape instead of portrait. And I ideally would make sure that this is centered perfectly. Depending on the printer you're using, you might have options here. Mine is clearly grayed out. Under marks and bleeds, you would definitely want to make sure you have crop marks on here so that when you actually go to print it, you'll know the boundaries of your design. And that's another thing that I want to mention about this method is even though in the print dialog box, it only looks like it's giving you print marks in the four corners, I know from experience that it will also give you a mark here and a mark here on both sides of the page, which is incredibly useful. The other method, the more basic method that we approached it with first, it will not do that for you. And you'll have a harder time figuring out where your fold lines for this brochure actually are. So that's another benefit to this. The other thing that you could add here is registration. This is just going to be useful because it shows you the exact center point of your document. It's not technically required for us, but in this case, in terms of just knowing where folds are, why not have a little added extra security? You want to make sure you would use your document bleed settings, and then everything else should be fairly standard. Now, based off of what we did last time, when I showed you guys print presets, this is a little bit more of a complicated print preset. So you could actually hit Save Preset. I've already saved one here for brochure gatefold, and it will just retain all of the settings that we made in this dialog box for another time, because pamphlets could be a very common thing that you might have to do for certain clients. So you just want to make sure that you have it set up properly the first time, it runs smoothly, and you can just keep pumping out the work as best you can without worrying about all these technical headaches in the print dialog box. So that's my demonstration on how to make a professional brochure gatefold spread document in Adobe InDesign. I'll catch you guys in the next video and see you later.